What's up guys, back again, and today we're going to go over servicing your pre-filter system and also priming that the pre-filter once you change the element. So obviously Direction Plus offers two different systems, the Preline-plus and the Fuel Manager. The priming process between both those systems is very similar. However, changing the elements between the Fuel Manager and the Preline are slightly different. So we're going to go over that today, and we'll show you how to change those filters and also prime that fuel system on your vehicle. Okay, so here we have the Preline or the PL150 assembly. So when servicing in that, obviously you'll have to push the release clip and then pull the harness off the bottom of it. You'll need to remove the water sensor, because keep this, you reuse it. Obviously once you're at that stage, you need to unscrew the element, dispose of that safely, get your new element, which will have a little cover on the bottom of it. Screw that back on, hand tight, doesn't need any tools in order to put it back on again. Remove the sticker off the bottom of it. Screw the water sensor back in. Finger tight. And then reinstall the sensor plug. Once you're at that stage, you obviously then need to prime the system again and get all the air out of the filter and fill it back up full of fuel again. So that is the Preline, changing the element on the Preline, and we'll go on and we'll actually change it on the vehicle in a second. So here we have the Fuel Manager pre-filter system that we offer as well. So the Fuel Manager is a little bit different with servicing. So you keep the water bowl, and obviously you keep the head as well. However, when you're servicing it, because we keep this, you remove the bowl like such, so you keep that. Undo the locking ring. That removes, keep that as well. Remove the fuel filter. So these have little locking lugs on them, so they only go in one way. And generally it's to the logo is out the front. Push that one back in there. Put the locking ring back on, and you'll hear that click like that. So it gets rather tight just before it clicks, so make sure it actually clicks, otherwise the filter's not pulled up properly. Get your water bowl and then screw that one back on. So once again, just hand tight, no tools are required to do it back up. And then obviously once again, when you're at that stage, you'll need to reprime the system and get all the air out of the system again. When servicing and priming your fuel system, there might be some basic hand tools which you will need in order to do that. No different to any other mechanical practice on your car, you generally need some tools to do it. So there's a couple of different versions so for the Preline, because it is a round filter, and obviously sometimes that can get a little bit stuck over time, you can use a device like this. So this is a strap filter removal tool. You'll need a 1/2-inch ratchet, which goes into the top like that, and then that gives you some leverage. I'll show you how to use that one in a second. The other one is obviously a filter removal spanner, in which case that just grabs hold of the filter like that and undoes it for you. For the Preline as well, you may need a 12mm spanner to undo the bleed screw in the top of the Preline. A container in which, when you're bleeding the fuel system, to put the extra fuel in when you're pumping it through. A bit of fuel hose to put on the end of the filter to put back into the container, so you make sure that you've got enough room for that one. And if you like, we also offer this hand priming assembly, which on some applications it makes life a little bit easier. So we'll go through and we'll show you how to to use those in actual practice. Obviously, which tools you decide to use is what works best for you, so depending on the application, where the filter is located and whatnot. So for the installation on my Hilux, I prefer to use something like that because it's really simple and easy to use. However, depending on where it's located, you may need to use a strap tool like that, and these are pretty simple to use. So you'd slide the strap over the top of the filter like that and roll the strap around the tool itself, and once it's tight, stick the shifter in the top. So as you tighten it, it tightens the strap around the filter, and then we'll undo the filter for you. So once again, just depends on the application. So obviously you don't need that to do the filter back up again, so just hand tight. Here we have an installation on a Hilux, and we'll go through the process of changing the element and bleeding the system again. And obviously I showed you two different tools in which to bleed the system, so we'll go over that. So first things first is with the preline-plus, is you want to reach down the bottom and disconnect the water sensor and just sit that to one side. So you can just pull the filter off and then pull the sensor off the bottom once the filter's out of the way. So with your chosen tool, undo the fuel filter. You will spill some fuel doing this, so it might pay to have some rags and something to catch any excess fuel dropping on the ground. So that's the old pre-filter. So once you're here, you'll need to obviously tip the fuel out and then make sure you get the water sensor back. We remove the old filter. We've got the new replacement element here, and so you remove the little sticker off the bottom. We remove the water sensor off the old element, so we'll install that into the new one. Like such, and once again, just finger tight, don't over tighten it, because once again you can't strip it out. So once that's done, install the element back onto the head. And once again, just hand tight. You don't have to go bonkers on it or use any tools. Get the plug for the water sensor and plug that back into the water sensor in the bottom of the pre-filter. Obviously some of these processes are done by braille. And you'll hear the click when it's back into place. So obviously now that that's in there, there's a massive big pocket of air in there. So there's a couple of different ways to do this. One is with the using the hose, the extended bit of hose, which you put on the outlet of the factory filter, and you use the hand primer to pump that through. The other one is using the hand primer and bleeding it through the top of the preline. So depending on the installation, it may be easier to bleed this one first and then bleed the factory one, or because this is higher, so you can have an air pocket in the top of here if you're not careful. So it's up to you, and it's up to the kind of installation and what's required. So I'll go through and I'll show you how to use the hand primer. That's the hand primer. Have your 12mm spanner, and you remove the bleed screw on the top of the pre-line like such. Keep that little washer, and put that one back on there, and screw the hand primer into the top of the pre-line. Doesn't have to be super tight. You get your container. Simply just pump the hand primer. As it sucks the fuel through, it'll get slower and slower. And you do that until fuel comes out of the hand primer. So once the fuel starts coming through like that, just give it a little bit of time, a couple of extra pumps to make sure that you've obviously grabbed all the air out of the pre-filter. Rightio. So that should be enough. Just set that down there. And we'll remove the primer. Out of this before you put it back into storage again. Make sure you get this washer back and reinstall the bleed screw. Just nip that up, it doesn't need to be overly tight. That is how you use the hand primer when bleeding a pre-line. So next I'll go through is I'll show you how to bleed the fuel system using the hand primer on the factory fuel system. So this is, depending on the make and model of the vehicle, this might be a little bit different. It might be gold, might be made out of metal, but generally it'll be something that has a little pump handle on that, and that sucks the fuel through. So grab yourself a pair of pliers and remove the outlet of the factory fuel filter. So this is obviously the hose that goes to the high pressure common rail fuel pump. Be very careful with this hose, because once you remove it, that obviously has the potential, if any dirt gets in there, that'll go straight to your high pressure fuel pump. So make sure that no dirt gets in there. Once that hose is removed, you get your little bit of hose, random hose that you have, and install that back onto the factory fuel system. Get your handy dandy container, stick the hose in there like such, and then using the hand primer on top of the factory fuel filter, you pump the fuel through. So you see it coming through, there's quite a bit of air in there. This will take some time, so if you were just solely using this method, you'll have to pump all the fuel that was in the factory fuel filter out, so there will be some fuel that comes straight out, and then it will stop, and then you'll suck through a heap of air, and then you'll get fuel back again. So pump that through, make sure there's no air in the system anymore. You'll see obviously lots of bubbles coming out of the hose. Remove your bit of hose. Careful not to spill any of the fuel anywhere. Hose back on the factory filter again. Like such. Clean up your mess. That's the fuel system bled. So what you want to do now is you actually want to start the car and let it run for say 5 or 10 minutes, just to make sure that you're not going to have any problems when you go drive down the road, that the engine's actually going to keep on running and there's no air stuck in the system. Righty guys, so there you go. That's servicing the preline and changing the element, bleeding the fuel system. So this is obviously something that, providing that you've got the basic tools, you can do on the side of the road if you get stuck. However, we do recommend that your general servicing gets carried out by a competent, qualified mechanic. Now, don't forget, we've got heaps of videos on YouTube, and don't forget our Facebook and Instagram social media platforms as well. So have a good one, get out there and have some fun.